Let's keep that same energy, man. It's time, man. It's everybody's favorite segment. Last week, Nye, the commission, he nailed it with his Conjo mixing to keep that same putrid energy that he's had, weeks 1 through 3. I mean, not everyone can put up good numbers against, the top defense. But we're going to give Nye his roses on his call last week. He finished with 0 touchdowns last week on 24 carries and 59 yards. Not very good.
Should have sold him.
You should have sold him. So this week, it gives me the greatest pleasure to announce BrandinCooks' name today, man. With a stellar performance Sunday, hauling in 8 of 12 targets on 161 yards and a score. I know we all love to see that type of performance from B. Cooks. He's a kind of a fan favorite player. He's back and fantasy relevant. And I'm going to pit him up against Marquise Brown because Sunday was easily his best showing of the year. He hauled in 6 of 10 targets for 77 yards and a score. Who we got, fellas, to keep that same energy? I'll start with you, Kosher.
I got Marquise Brown keeping that same energy. He's had at least 6 targets every game. 6, he's had 8, he's had 10. Where he's got to improve a little bit is he's got to be more efficient. 6 out of 10 isn't going to cut it most weeks. What is going to help him is Lamar Jackson getting healthy. I know that might mean that Lamar runs a little bit, and that might take a few passes away. Right now, the script flows through Marquise Brown. BrandinCooks has been targeted 6 or more times, only twice this season. Once was this past week where he had 12 targets. He also had 8 targets earlier. Otherwise, he's getting between 3 and 5 targets a game. Brown is more of a factor in that offense.
Hey, Marquise Brown for Kosher. He's preaching efficiency.
Ooh.
Okay, Nye. Who's keeping that same energy, homie?
Damn. I'm happy to see both these players kind of performing. Marquise Brown has been very inconsistent to start the year. BrandinCooks was a ghost for the first month of the season. Actually, no, he had a pretty good game against Baltimore. They played the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had 12 targets, 8 catches, 161 yards with a score. He gets a pretty favorable schedule over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to go with BrandinCooks on this. And it's only because I just don't think the Baltimore Ravens passing game is that consistent. It still flows through Mark Andrews. And they just haven't looked right. They haven't looked in sync. I think with BrandinCooks, they're starving for another receiver outside of Will Fuller. And I think BrandinCooks is going to help in that regard. As soon as Bill O'Brien gets fired, he gets 12, targets, and over 150 yards receiving. I'm taking BrandinCooks. I don't even think it's that hard.
I tried to make it a position-on-position battle this week for you, Commish. Big baller. Who's keeping that energy, man?
Man, you guys already know what train I'm hopping on today.
I'm
hopping on that train to Hollywood!
Hey.
You're coming on the Cooks train.
And I got to say it's for one reason, because if you take away that touchdown, I think Marquise Brown has more weeks like this. And I don't think he's got 20-point weeks, but I don't think BrandinCooks has 30-point weeks. Who's keeping that same energy? I'm keeping the same energy with Marquise Brown. He's had 3 out of these 5 games of the season, which is over 70 yards. That's really it. That's the energy I'm keeping. Marquise Brown's going to keep having games over 70 yards. So the majority of this season, his yard total at the end of the game is going to be over 70 yards. You might not win a week off him, but it's going to be there. If you're talking to me about BrandinCooks has 2 games over 90, and the rest of them under 23, one of them with nothing at all. Keeping some kind of energy, Marquise Brown has shown me that this energy is through the season. Knock that touchdown off. It'll come week to week. Honestly, Lamar and Mark Andrews are going to take most of those. But BrandinCooks, I didn't like him before the season. And the reason I don't trust him on this injury comeback. The Texans have not been good this year. I want to hope that B.O.B. being gone is going to bring back some wins. But I didn't like BrandinCooks, and it had nothing to do with the Texans. I didn't like BrandinCooks after his performance last year. After he started going down with concussions, he was not the same player. He still had that potential to give you a week-to-week game. But he showed me last year he was not the same guy that we know. And I don't care that it's 6 seasons. He's injury-prone, and he's been injury-prone. And the injuries that he gets are not the kind of injuries that you like building up over a career. I don't like guys who have concussions build up over 6 years. Sure, athleticism is also there, but When your brain starts to get injured, I don't like to trust those guys. Marquise Brown is young. Marquise Brown is number one. Brandin Cooks is not a number one, not on his team at least. He's a 1A maybe. But Marquise Brown is the number one wide receiver on that team. Yeah, it's Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews, and then just a bunch of literally no one else. I've seen other wide receivers in Houston go off. I've seen their tight ends be very, very viable for taking touchdowns away from their wide receivers. And I've seen David Johnson involved in the passing game. There's too many mouths to feed there. Brandin Cooks is not the player I want to trust. I haven't trusted him since last season. I'm not going to start now. Marquise Brown, he's not giving me 20-point weeks. I'm not seeing the high upside, keeping that energy. But 70 yards, 6 catches, that's been his energy this season.
All right, I was saying
Hollywood, baby.
He gets Darius Slay next week. He gets the bye, and then he gets Pittsburgh with Joe Hayden. He gets Indianapolis, Xavier Rhodes, their number one defense. And then he gets also as well, he gets New England, so that's Stephon Gilmore or J.C. Jackson, whichever one he wants. And then he comes back around to Tennessee, he gets Pittsburgh again. And he finally gets Dallas in week 13. I'm going B. Cooks. B. Cooks, at least over the next month or so, I think it's B. Cooks.
You can take the top off those corners. Joe Hayden's 31, Philadelphia, Darius Slay. You can take the top off these guys.
You're darn right. But you know what?
It's too late.
I'm going with Cooks. I'm going with Cooks. I'm going with Cooks. I'm pretty confident on it. I really wouldn't want any of these guys, but I think I go.